Aquarius. Okay, we're doing things in a bit of a different way today. Your reading took a while to come through, so thank you everybody for being patient and happy birthday. I think we are in Aquarius season now, right? I think so. So happy birthday to my Aquarians out there. The other big news for you is that Pluto, I believe, has moved into your sign proper now. It's going to be in your sign for the next, what, 20 years, something like that. I don't know, it's a different amount in each sign. It's a big slow moving planet, and the last time it was in your sign, I believe, the French Revolution happened. So when Pluto enters Aquarius, there are big kind of societal changes. Your sign, Aquarius, is about kind of society, about how we all work together, thinking of the greater good. And then Pluto comes along and kind of tests those things. So if anything's not working for society, it's going to go through some trials while Pluto is in your sign. I don't think you're gonna kind of. I'm hearing a lot of Shakespeare for you. I just heard, and like as I was speaking, it's almost like the words were being put in my mouth. I was gonna say I don't think you're gonna be suffering arrows of outrageous fortune, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, which is a quote from the very, very famous speech by Hamlet, where he's kind of like, to be or not to be. It's like to exist or not to exist, right? Is like the meaning of that. Like should I, he says, should I suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against myself, end them, or something like that is the speech. I'm really bad. I did drama at school, and as much as I love Shakespeare, I am so bad at learning lines. Like I cannot get them spot on for the life of me. So it feels a little bit like, you feel a little bit like you're aware of something coming, is the way it's coming through for you, Aquarius. It feels like you're sort of seeing the signs of a shift. So what do I have for you? Let me start at the top of my notes. So the first thing that was coming through was this feeling of almost emotional numbness. Now, I don't know if this is, Aquarius, because of, I don't know, all the awful things that are going on in the news, and this kind of constant barrage we have of like one thing after another, like one conflict after another conflict. We've just had that big one kind of in Europe, and now there's one going on in kind of like the Middle East. So I don't know if you're just getting a bit not desensitized, because you're not coming through as being uncaring, or not, you're not coming through as being like, I don't care about this, I'm not interested in this. You're coming through as, I care so much about this that I've reached my tipping point where in order for my body to protect itself, it's making me go numb to it, right? It's a numbness that comes from caring too much, not a numbness that comes from not caring. So on an emotional level, like the impact of, and again, this could be what's going on in the news for you, again, as a kind of collective energy. It could be something really personal for you where, maybe there's things going on in your life. I am getting this thing coming through of like, particularly a female who could be having some issues where they're very up and down, or they're very chaotic. So that could be somebody around you. It's not going to be for all of you though, I don't think, that message. So again, it's kind of like you've got a lot on your plate perhaps, and again, it could be both. You could be like personally really going through some tough challenges, but also on top of that, you've got like, collectively and globally, there's so many scary things happening that you just can't anymore. It's like this it's like hitting an emotional wall or something. So that could be for what some of you are experiencing at the moment. I think, a lot of us are. I don't think it's, unique to Aquarius. I think Aquarius, though, does have a tendency, and again, this does depend to you personally, the viewer, to each of you watching this. The impact of this is going to be dependent on your own personal chart. So for example, if you've got a lot of water placements, you are going to feel things very emotionally. If you have a lot of air sign placements, you're going to feel things more intellectually. The fire signs and the earth signs tend to be doers or action takers, in the way that they process things. So it is going to be dependent on your own personal placements, but generally speaking, Aquarius energy by itself as a sign tends to be very intellectual, very almost like I'm hearing psychotherapy. It wasn't the word that I was looking for, but perhaps that's what they're trying to get me to say. Like analysis, oh, we feel it's kind of like Aquarius can be the King of Swords, which can be like a doctor, right? So it's almost like a doctor of the brain. So it's like you know, it's like, you know, you're feeling this now, you're having this response because of this thing that happened in your childhood. It's very kind of like Freudian, but it's also coming through with like, well, you know, feelings are just chemicals in our body. You know, it's like I understand that, you know, love is just a release of chemicals because my brain is programmed to feel a certain way when I see a certain person, or, you know, it's like you've got all you're feeling almost like you've took a step back from what's happening to you and emotionally, and you've gone into that kind of like analytical kind of intellectual role of the observer about what's going on in your situation again. So that can be a really, really good thing, because sometimes I think they keep on drawing me to Cancerian energy, which is your polar opposite sign, and a little bit of Pisces as well, but mainly Cancerian energy seems to be coming up as like a foil for you. So this was coming through a little bit with that kind of like feminine, more turbulent, emotional person. So it was coming through with sorry, just getting my brain back on track, because there's a lot coming through for you. So it can be useful to do that, because I think sometimes when people don't have very much self-awareness and they're really caught up in a situation and they're in the emotion of it, right, the logical part of our brain shuts down, and it can be really hard to really see the situation for what it is, because you're so kind of like caught up in the storm of it. Where, you know, when you take a step back and you go into that role of the observer and you can think critically and logically, you know, it's you have that self-awareness of like how you can get out of that situation, or, you know, how to break a cycle that keeps perpetuating. I am getting this kind of like cycling storm energy, which is interesting, because I think we've got, is it like Storm Irma? I don't know, we have so many storms now in the UK. Yeah, but like I say, this numbness, it can come in useful, because it can switch you from a kind of reactive to a proactive state. And I think that is a big key message that's coming through for you, is this proactivity. So I'll kind of come back around to that. So you have the song Mood Ring by Lorde, where she's like, I can't feel a thing. So it could just be that you're really cold, right? You know, when your fingers go numb, because I was getting this thing in meditation about, it was kind of like fire, like it was like, again, you're getting a lot of contrasts. So I was getting this contrast of like almost being inside a cabin, right, like a log cabin, and having like a nice big warm roaring fire. It felt like very cozy inside this cabin. And then in the meditation, it's like I was opening the door just a crack and peeking out, and there was like an icy cold storm outside, like rain, cold, ice, and you know, like you wouldn't want to be out there, which is interesting, because Cancer had this thing about being caught in a blizzard. So I wonder if there's some kind of tie-in with that, almost like Heathcliff, you know, like, let me in at your window. So yeah, you've got this feeling of like you being inside and peeking out, and but nobody being there, but this feeling of like there's a presence outside, or there's something coming. So I've got a little bit of an anecdote, a little bit of a story to tell you. I was joking the other day that there was a poltergeist about, because I was in work and I was just kind of minding my own business, kind of, I was prepping some food, and I felt that familiar feeling of like a hand on my back. And it feels to me, when that happens, it almost feels like one of my spirit guides is here to say, you're supported. And so I thought, that you're like, my spirit guide showed up, like what you know, I was just in work, and then almost immediately after I felt this and became aware, one of the younger lads who works with me, just out of the blue, it was like, you know, nobody was talking about it, they just blurted out, oh, a mirror fell on my head yesterday. And I was like, oh, did it smash? You know, and he's like, no, it didn't smash, but it just fell, like a picture frame and a mirror just fell off the wall onto my head. And I thought, how interesting, because I was just getting that pat on the back. And then it's like, I was like, and I thought to myself, haha, maybe you've got a poltergeist. And then a few minutes later, a lady was unstacking the dishwasher, and she had a Pyrex jug, like a glass jug, in her hand, and it just smashed in her hand. From like, I think honestly, like again, logically speaking, it was probably just because it was a really cold day, and you know, the Pyrex jug had been really cold, and then it gone into the dishwasher, which was really hot, and then come back out into the cold. So I think it was just like the expanding, you know, of the and contracting of the heat, which again is almost like putting a logical spin on something that feels more irrational or emotional or non-scientific, right? So that could be the thing as well. So yeah, and I went, haha, maybe it is a poltergeist, kind of like joking about it. And I came home and I kind of like was talking about this, and then there was a knock at the door and there was no one there. So a member of my family went and opened the door. There was no one there, and I looked out the window above the door, and there was no one in the street. So it's like, well, who knocked on the door? And I was going, oh, it's the poltergeist, like joking around. But I was like, honestly, like logically speaking, I'm getting patted on the back again. So maybe it is, I don't know. But I was joking, and I was saying it's probably just the wind, right? The wind is like, I came home and because of this big storm, there was like a bush, like a shrub outside my house. And it was just like, it was like a cat or something like sat there waiting for me outside my house, and it had blown out of somebody's hanging basket and like down the street. And it almost looked to me like, like computer games where like the shrub moves because the shrub has like, it's following you, it's like an enchanted shrub. So I don't know, but like it's funny that it came back through in meditation for you, this idea of like opening the door and feeling very warm inside, but there's no one there. But it's this sense of like foreboding, or like, I don't know, it's almost like a warning that something's coming. Yeah, it's kind of this feeling of like, is this friendly, or is it friendly, or is it foe, is the way it's coming through. Like, is this here to help me, or is this here to scare me? It's coming through that it's friendly, right? And I'm not saying that you're literally haunted or anything like that. What I'm saying is, if you've got this sense of foreboding, if you've got this sense of something's coming, right? Maybe you can't quite put your finger on it, but you've got this like sense of dread. I want to say that this shadowy warning, whatever form this is taking for you, you've got dancing lights. So it could be that you're it's coming through like you're seeing a sign, right? Almost like, like in Irish mythology where they say the banshee's wail kind of like is the sign. So it's not bad in itself, it's just making its presence known, right? It's just it's coming through like something's giving you a heads up. Whatever this is for you, if this is making any sense at all, it's like it's giving you a heads up. So this came through with I've heard like full sentences for you. I heard strengthen your backbone. So whether something is strengthening your backbone, like maybe this is something medical that's going on for you. You're doing kind of like back exercises, like yoga to strengthen your back or something. But it's almost like strengthen your resolve, strengthen your ability to stand up for yourself, something like that. Like either this is going to do that, it's going to strengthen you, or you need to strengthen to prepare for something. Then I heard the preparedness is all, which again is a quote from Hamlet. Then I like got the feeling of like premonition. And then I was getting this feeling of like advantage. So the message that was coming through was the reason why this is friendly for you is because it's giving you a heads up. It's giving you it's telling you to prepare. So I was being shown kind of like it's funny because I've been playing castles in The Sims. Like, if there's a castle and there's an ambush on it, there's a surprise attack, the soldiers are at a disadvantage because they've been surprised. Where if they get news that something's coming, like we can see an army approaching, they're 2 weeks away, they've got 2 weeks to prepare, and therefore they have the advantage because they're prepared. So again, this thing about the preparedness is all seems to be really important for you. So this thing about like, take note of the signs, trust your instincts, and prepare seems to be the message that's coming through. Again, it's like almost like there's also something else coming through. So again, this idea of like a presence that seems foreboding but actually is a friend. So the song Mood Ring, it goes love and light, transcendental meditation, da, 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 love and light. So I was getting this feeling of perhaps you being with some sort of group, perhaps it's just your friends, your family, the people that you're talking to, where there's almost this fear of something dark. It's almost like that's evil, that's bad, that's dark, therefore, we are not acknowledging it, or we don't want to talk about it. It's not part of this. It's almost like a toxic positivity is the way it's coming through. There's nothing wrong with, you know, watching what you say and kind of what you think about, you bring about, and like focusing on the good. But I think denial of there being something wrong is a very, very toxic behavior, and it's coming through like that. So again, it feels like a group around you that are very love and light, and it's like they don't want to hear this warning, right? They don't want to hear you. Like, it's almost like you hearing the banshee howl and going back into the castle and being like, something's coming, and everybody's like, no, no, we're having a party, love and light, there's nothing wrong, you know, stop worrying. And you're like, but there's something coming, I can sense it, is the way it's coming through. So it's almost like, not, it's like Cassandra, if you know the myth of Cassandra, where, you know, she says, you know, she has the power of premonition. It's Greek mythology, and people ignore her, and you know, they ignore the warning, and then bad things happen. I need to double check that myth. I'm not super familiar with it. So yeah, denial of something awful that could be useful. Panther is my note. Now the Panther card came out of my own deck when I was shuffling, and it came out with the Sun and the Siren. So it's Sun, Siren, Panther. Sun, I was thinking, it makes me think of newspapers, right? Like the Sun. So it could be stuff that you're seeing in the news. So, and then the Siren, it was coming through with, again, this idea of like a warning, like an alert was the way it was coming through. And then the panther is your friend. So this is what I was talking about. So you know, if you saw a big black panther lurking in the shadows, you'd be like, oh, that's, you know, it's giving me the heebie-jeebies, that's something scary, right? That's something that could hurt me. But the panther, your spiritual panther, is something that is used to the darkness. It understands the darkness, and it uses the darkness in order to move. So it talks about almost like the bad things that have happened to you becoming part of your ability to read, to see the bad things, to see the red flags in a situation. You know, the panther is that heads up, it is the alert. So there's something about, I'm trying to explain how it's coming through. There's something about your own darker tendencies, right? Your own shadow, your own instincts, your own baser, like beast within, that is, it's seeing some red flags, or it's seeing the early warning signs of a situation, and it's trying to wake you up and alert you to this. And so it's not something that you should ignore, is the way it's coming through. So I was being told, events only seem sudden and surprising if you don't see the curve. So this thing about seeing the curve. So if you look at, and I was hearing history repeats itself. So it was looking to me a little bit like, you know how things go in cycles. So for example, the stock market, you know, it can only go up so far, and then eventually something's going to happen and the stock market's going to come back down again. Housing prices go up and down. So all these like investments, it could definitely be about investments, you know. There is, I watched a video yesterday by someone in the UK who was saying the early warning signs of the housing market kind of going into decline in the UK are here now. So things like people start using credit cards more, people stop paying the credit cards more. So all these kind of things signal that people are struggling with money, which obviously, right, we all know this. And it's like, well, what do you stop paying first? What do you prioritize? And the thing people prioritize is, you know, the mortgage a lot of the time. So if other things start to not get paid, it's a sign that people are struggling, and that's going to impact the housing market. And he was looking at all different like figures. And it was kind of complicated. I didn't fully understand the whole thing myself, right? And then there was another video there that was saying the stock market's about to take off in the UK. So, you know, like gold prices go up and down. So it could be something like that, but it doesn't have to be finances. It could be changes to politics, you know, look at how politics goes in cycles. Especially if you're in the UK or America or somewhere that has like a two-party system. You know, we have more than two parties, but there's two, like, you know, forerunners. You know, so all these kind of things, I'm hearing you can bank on it. So it could definitely be something about investments and your money. You might be wanting to look at reinvesting some of your money. I mean, don't put all your chickens in one basket, right? But if you've been investing heavily in one particular area, and that's, you know, showing signs of like it's reached its peak now, it would be a good idea to kind of like sell high and buy low, and kind of move into something that is a bit more up and coming. Again, I can't give you I'm a tarot card reader. I am not a financial advisor. I can't give you actual financial advice. So anything that I'm saying, if it sounds like something you're interested in doing, go and get legitimate, proper advice from people who are knowledgeable. Don't just do something on the basis of a tarot reading. But it's really coming through, like, especially with this idea of like seeing the curve. And this thing about events only seem sudden and surprising if you don't see the curve. So this thing about like history repeating itself, it's like you can see the early warning signs of something coming. It's like nothing is ever really sudden. Like the French Revolution wasn't actually a surprise if you look at what was going on with society before that happened. So it's coming through like that. Right. They literally, my guides wouldn't let me pull any cards for you until I got those preliminary messages out the way. So I'm going to just talk about, you've got the sword and the snake. This talks about, swords talk to me about truth, and kind of a almost like kingly, authoritative, undeniable truth. If somebody put a massive sword on the table, it would be like, I have authority. I am being overt, right? So in contrast to kind of, I've got a dagger card, and the dagger card talks about a concealed truth, you know, a truth that's on a needs to know. This is an overt truth. So this kind of is coming through for you today, like an undeniable fact, you know, saying something that is so, saying something with authority that is so factual and evidenced that it is undeniable. So again, this could be something that we're going to see on the news, you know, so, an expert, or, you know, somebody who has kind of that kind of authority, like for example, a president. So you know how like the presidents have access to all secret information. It'd be like someone like Barack Obama saying, here's the evidence, I've seen it for myself, and here's the proof. Right? And they are somebody who would have access to that information. So it's something like that. It's like having the evidence, speaking the truth, it being undeniable. It's like, I don't know what that could be, and it doesn't have to specifically be a president or Barack Obama, but it could be like, you know, some expert in a field who works at a university on a specific project. You know, it's like they know what they're talking about because they're the one who was on the project. So it has that feeling. So it could even be you, right? You coming into a situation with your beautiful, logical mind, with your intelligence, with your way of, with your communication skills as well, because Aquarius is the King of Swords. So they have they're very kind of, again, that kind of authoritative voice of someone who's speaking with authority because they know what they're talking about. They're speaking factually, you know, it's not, it's like it's proven because it's logic kind of thing, you know, like maths is it proves itself because of the logic of it. So the snake can talk about a lot of things. It can talk about transformation. So this could be a truth that is transforming a situation, but it's coming through almost like the sword is stopping the snake. So the snake can talk about kind of someone who's a bit suspicious, somebody who's a bit conniving. If you think about like Adam and Eve and the snake with the apple, it's kind of like that's how it's coming through, this idea of kind of like putting a stop to something because speaking the truth is undeniable and there's nowhere for that snaky energy to go. There's a little tiny fly in my room, so just if you notice that, it's he's come to say hi. Is there anything under the snake? Let me just bring this back. No, it's in reverse, the compass in reverse, so it could be about a change of direction. I'm not sure. Right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to try again to pull your cards because the cards weren't talking. And I don't make stuff up. If nothing's coming out, nothing's coming out. But yeah, I'm going to stop, try and do the cards, and then I'll come back with your spread. I tell a lie. I tell a lie. As I was about to do that, my attention was drawn to these. So maybe it's time for the Scrabble letters. I was getting something about poetry. I've got a couple of songs by someone called the Red Salmon Poet on my Spotify, and it's kind of like spoken word poetry. So there could be something about that. It was specifically, I think it was called like Lover or Loved. I think it's Loved by Red Salmon Poet. So again, I was getting that sort of Shakespeare-y feel of like, the way this was coming through was if someone was trying to it's like if someone's trying to express something, um and they're taking a very flowery approach, it's coming through as disingenuine. So this could be advice, you know. So if one of you is perhaps trying to tell someone how you feel, it's almost like actually just being very factual about it could be the right approach. So I've had this message before, and it was the opposite way around. Last time I had this message, it was like, you're being too matter of fact, you're being too clinical about this, like you need to be more romantic. And you've got the flip side of the message. You've got the romantic side is coming through as like almost like Knight of Cups. It's almost like, you know, a Don Juan energy, or somebody who's, you know, like a musician. Say, for example, like, you know, people say you shouldn't date musicians because like it's coming through like poets though, like because they're so good with words, because they're so romantic, because they are so almost smarmy is the way it's coming through. It's such a crafted way of speaking. You know, think about Shakespeare. It's like a very highly crafted form of poetry. So it's like because this is so it's like so beautiful, but it's so, there's this intellectual crafting behind it. It's coming through as performative and not genuine, where somebody who just blurts something out from the heart comes through as more believable perhaps. So there's something about that. So again, you know, the sword can work in two different ways. It can be brilliant because it's like logic and factual and undeniable, but you know, if you're giving a speech, sometimes you know, the emotive speech, the buzzwords, the kind of emotion provoking language can be actually more impactful on a large audience than, you know, just being very, very factual and straightforward. Look at like the news, like look at the media, how you know, we'll have this big panic because, you know, the way that the news is presented initially is like it you know, a lot of the time it's designed to scare us, and the language they use is designed to provoke our emotions, and then, you know, 2 weeks later you get like the fact checkers coming in who is like, that's not true, this is the real situation. But by then, like, the damage is done, right? Because everybody's had the emotional response. So this is propaganda. Basically, this is how propaganda works. I know a lot about that. I studied a lot of speeches and politics and rhetoric and things like that, so I can smell it a mile off, right? And like, I know how people, like politicians, the news, how they use language to have these effects on people. But if you're just tired at the end of a busy day and you sit down and you watch the news, you know, before you know it, especially if you drip fed it, you know, you've basically brainwashed without even realizing it. And then people don't want to be told. It's like, you're stupid for believing that, right? No one wants to hear that. So I don't know. So I feel like you're one of the people who's like watching the news, or it doesn't have to be the news and it doesn't have to be politics. It could be, you know, you're in work and the boss is giving a speech and trying to make something sound really good, but you're like, you know, you're pulling at the threads. You're kind of like, hang on, reading between the lines and being like, well, you know, you get those kind of people, you get those kind of bosses who just kind of like placate, and they say the right thing. They tell people what they want to hear, but they don't actually, there's no weight behind the words. So you could be dealing with something like this as well, where it's kind of like, you know, promises. A lot of stuff coming through intuitively for you today, Aquarius. And I think that's a message in itself. I think you need to trust your intuition and maybe don't overanalyze this. The little fly, listen, I don't want to kill you because I think you have a right to life, but could you not be in my bedroom, please? He's coming to say hi. I'm just going to leave him. We should name him. Let's call him Cyril. Cyril the fly. Come to talk to you in your reading. I'm hearing 3. Let's get you 3 letters. This could be initials. It could spell something out. Whatever you get from this, go with it. I see. What do you see? I hope it's not you. I don't want it to be you. Not because it's like I see you, but because it's like the ICU at a hospital. And V. They're like, okay, we won't give you a U, we'll give you a V. ICV. Maybe you've got a CV. Maybe this is like, maybe ICV, it's like an online CV. Again, this could be initials. It could sort of spell something out, you know. So Vic, Civ, do as you want with that. You've got the numbers 314. If it means something, take it. If it doesn't mean anything, that's absolutely fine as well. Just make a note of it. It might be something that pops up over the next few days. I'm hearing 4 words. I like this. Again, this is like, it's good for, they're kind of like poetry fridge magnets. So you can just buy them off Amazon if you're so inclined. And they're just like random words, and they kind of like help if you're trying to, you know, write poetry, I guess. Or like you can leave little notes to your family. They're cute. So I use them for divination. Paradise. Oh, that was a nice one. I'm getting that song. It took a second to come through because I've not heard it for a long time. It's like, sorry, sirens. Funny, you had the word siren, didn't you? Just another day for you and me in paradise. It's funny as well because I mentioned Adam and Eve. Think twice, it's another day for you and me in paradise. God, that's an old song. I couldn't even tell you who sings it. If you know, maybe make a comment below if you're comfortable doing that. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice. Paradise 1000. Maybe you're going on vacation. It's going to cost like £1,000 to go to paradise. I hope it's worth it. Diamond and maybe you're buying a diamond. That Red Salmon Poet song did sound a little bit like they were proposing at the end, so somebody could be proposing. Maybe somebody's proposing to someone on vacation. I don't know. Well, they're nice. I like those. Was it Capricorn or Sagittarius that got thousand? Khalees and was it Outcast? Dracula's Wedding. I don't know, it's making me think of that. Right, I am gonna stop. I'm gonna try and pull cards for you again to get your spread, and we'll kind of see what my guides want to talk to you about next. I'm back and I still haven't pulled any cards for you. I actually just looked up that song. Think twice, it's another day for you and me in paradise. It's only Phil Collins. I was like, who sings that? I'm thinking it was like a really obscure song. I've added it to my Spotify now because obviously I need educating musically. But the lyrics are blowing my mind because it kind of is like what I was getting. So it says, she calls out to the man on the street, "Sir, can you help me? It's cold and I've nowhere to sleep. Is there somewhere you can tell me?" He walks on, doesn't look back. He pretends he can't hear her, starts to whistle as he crosses the street, seems embarrassed to be there. "Oh, think twice, it's another day for you and me in paradise." And then she calls out to the man on the street. He can see she's been crying. She's got blisters on the soles of her feet. She can't walk, but she's trying. You can see, you can tell from the lines on her face, you can see that she's been there, probably been moved on from every place because she didn't fit there. It's making me sad, right? It's kind of what I was getting. So a couple of things. One is that thing about it being cold outside, and you know, like that feeling in meditation where I was like all warm inside and I kind of opened the door and it was like stormy outside, and I was like, it's like someone had knocked on or like someone was coming. And then like 2, it's kind of got a little bit of a feeling of like, you know, like the story of Mary looking for somewhere to give birth, and she like she's knocking on all the inns and no one's letting her in. So like that kind of religious aspect, if any of you are particularly you know, like whether you are religious yourself or you're just particularly affected by these kind of stories at this time, or it's something that you're interested in learning more about. The other thing is, it's that feeling, it's very, very Aquarian of, again, with Aquarius having that feeling of, you know, caring about society as a whole, thinking about the greater good, you know, caring about people, and wanting to do better. All these, which is why I'm so excited that Pluto's in Aquarius, because it's like, I feel like there's this fixing of that. Like there's this, Pluto's this energy that kind of breaks things down in order so that they can be built back up again. And it's this deep, it's the detective of the planets. It takes this deep analytical kind of review of whatever subject it's dealing with. And so being in the house of Aquarius, it is this revolutionary feeling. So again, I was talking about the French Revolution, how, let them eat cake, ha ha ha. The people of France were like starving, while all these rich people kind of like, living this life of luxury. And that's exactly kind of what that Phil Collins song is saying, right? It's saying, for you and me, it's paradise. And, there's other people out there suffering. And so, we can put the blinders on and not think about it and kind of be like, well, I'm getting on with my own life. I'm keeping my head down. Or you can be like, we have to do something about that. But we can't do something about that very effectively as individuals, right? We could help that one woman on the street, but for that one woman, there's 1,000 others. Maybe this is why you've got 1,000. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, so, and like worth as well, when you're desperate for a loaf of bread, a few pounds is a lot of money, where, if you've got all your needs met, you a few pounds is nothing. So there's something about that. There's also, I mean, for a long time, it's a cause that's kind of quite close to my heart. I give money to Shelter, which is a charity that supports people who are either unhoused. I want to use the word unhoused, not homeless, because it's just explaining the difference of that. So the word homeless is like, it makes it sound like the person has a choice, where unhoused puts the blame on the society or the government for not providing enough housing to meet people's needs. So it changes the onus. And I think it's a complicated situation, right? And I don't think there's a lot of grey areas. There's a lot of points to be argued. But it can be difficult. It can be difficult because there's an older man who sits outside one of our local shops, and you've got the aspect of, if I'm walking, it's like I don't necessarily, want to engage in conversation with him. I can't, it's that thing of like, I can't save everybody. I've got my own family to feed, I've got my own things to do. So, is it my responsibility to stop and talk to him? And then I kind of like, I've been having this like wrestling of my consciousness. So it's like I want to help and I want to do something, but I'm also like, well, I give money to Shelter, and there's organizations that are, better resourced and who have a better understanding of like what can be done for someone like that. And, is he making a choice to do that? Is he like, I don't know his situation. And then I'm like, well, there's people as well. Like, it's a very, very busy area. There are people who would be, have better knowledge than me about how to support him. So it's this weird thing of like, I don't know what is the right thing to do. It's not that I'm doing nothing because I'm giving money to a charity that directly supports people who are in that person's situation. And they do say, don't they, as well, like, don't give money directly to people because they might spend it on something that they shouldn't. And so, yeah, it's this real like wrestling of my consciousness at the moment. And so this could definitely be something that you're dealing with, this feeling of like, I mean, my situation is not paradise. Like, there's a lot of problems with my house, right? But I do have a roof over my head. My basic needs are met, and there's a lot of people who aren't so lucky. And then I don't want to take those things for granted, and I don't want to and I've been like, personally as well, I've been in situations where, it's been very difficult. I've been on the breadline. And so I know what that's like as well. I know what it's like to not have things, to be facing eviction and stuff like this, through no fault of my own. And so I've kind of been in both situations. And I think, you know, again, with that kind of Aquarian energy, it is important to work collectively. It is important to work as a society where it's not down to individuals to 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 do things themselves, but we work collectively in order to make those bigger changes. You know, like when it's like a certain business. So if a business is like funding, or, you know, like if there's a business and it's making a situation worse, like we'll stop using that business. I mentioned Amazon. I know that a lot of people don't use Amazon because they feel like they don't treat the workers adequately. So we could be talking about like industrial action or strikes or unions. We may see, you know, more people using those more in Aquarius season. Okay, I am actually going to pull cards now, fingers crossed. A lot is coming through kind of intuitively for you. So yeah, I'm sorry, guys. All right. I had to pull a song to clarify the end of this spread, and I won't tell you what it is until we get to the end, but it is another rap song. And there's something about that. So I've been talking about Shakespeare, and I was talking about one of the songs coming through being the Red Salmon poet, who's kind of like a spoken word poet. It's kind of almost edging into rap. And so I don't know if I mentioned this in a reading recently, where I was saying if I was going to be an English teacher, I would teach them Shakespeare via rap music, because a lot of the techniques that Shakespeare uses, like assonance, alliteration, rhyme, obviously, rhythm, are also used by rap artists. So I talk about Eminem basically being on par with Shakespeare with his use of sounds and metaphors and imagery, you know, all those techniques that Shakespeare was using that he's lauded for. And of course, Eminem is very, very, very famous, but you know, rap artists, which is seen as something that's more of the streets, it's seen as more of a lowbrow perhaps art form. You know, why do we think of rap music as being not as good as Shakespeare? You know, where Shakespeare's like this higher, you know, education thing. It's like they're using the same techniques. And so I think a lot of the time you get children from less privileged backgrounds who go to school and they're being taught things like Shakespeare, and you know, it seems like it's from a different world, right? It's like, this is not what my parents you know, engage with. It's not something my parents understand. You know, it's seen as like this posh thing, you know, where, you know, if you're trying to teach them literary techniques, teach children with what they already engage with, right? So, you know, and I don't want to stereotype, you know, you do have to be very, very cautious of stereotyping. Of course, you get rich kids who listen to rap music. I mean, you know, I wasn't particularly privileged, but I loved Shakespeare as a kid. So, and I was very, very lucky that, you know, I went to see A Midsummer Night's Dream with my dad and my stepmom, and I still like love them for that. And of course, that's not something a lot of people do. So I was privileged. It's a whole thing. Like, listen, no, nothing's black and white, right? Everything's gray areas. Like, I don't know, but like, I'm going to try and get back on point. What I'm trying to say is, you know, there was this thing about, you know, how do I connect with a lot of people? How that song played as well, Lana Del Rey, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. So I feel like somebody could be trying to say something, or somebody could be trying to communicate a message, or, you know, maybe even get people on board. But if this person's coming from a more privileged background, you know, the language they use in itself, the way they present themselves, the way they hold themselves, the clothes they wear, could immediately put a barrier between trying to connect with people who might not be from such a from the same lifestyle, right? It's already, there's this, you know, they're not us, they don't understand us. So if somebody who is privileged is trying to do some good for people who are underprivileged, it's like, how do I engage with them in a way that is going to be engaging for them, right? So a teacher, like I say, a teacher who's, you know, they're privileged enough to have a master's level education, a PGCE in the UK is master's level, you know, going into a classroom full of underprivileged children, trying to teach them Shakespeare. It's like, do it through rap music. So yeah, there's definitely something about that. And even like, you know, if a child isn't going to sit there and write poetry, will they write? Maybe one of you is a teacher. It's like they're not going to sit down and write something like Shakespeare, but they might write their own rap song using the same techniques. Do you see what I mean? It's like you can still evidence, you know, they might be going home and kind of like, you know, like dreaming of being a pop star or something. So it's like engage them on their level, engage them with the things that they're interested in. I was again talking about this in school where I was going to be a teacher. I got onto a PGCE course, but I was so disillusioned with the education system at that point and the way the schools are run and governed that I just didn't want to be a teacher, and I didn't want to be part of it anymore. I was like, it's not fit for purpose in my opinion. So but I got onto the course, right, and this is my point, and I got onto the course by the lesson plan that I had that I'd created was teaching children of junior school age the 8 times table using Minecraft, because Minecraft works in 8s. So computers work in 8s, right? You have 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, you know. So I was like, I'll teach them using what a lot of them are already interested in and engaging with, you know, rather than like 8 to 8 to whatever it is, 64. So yeah, like there's something about that in itself, I think. Okay, going to your spread. That card looks dirty. You have a lot of the cards that I was already picking up on. You've got the Magician's Sword, confidence in your magic, your ability to speak the right words. You've got change. Change came out with creation as I was looking at your words. So I was looking at these words and I was like, it's making me think of civilization, right? And then I was thinking about that computer game Civilization, and then change, creation. It's like there's a change in the creation. There's a change, and the creation being civilization. It's like civilization is God's creation, and there's a change happening to that. And then resilience underneath that as well. And joy and music. I'm telling you, it's something about music, or like languages music, right? Like spoken word poetry, words as music. I don't know. And then what else as well? The Hangman. You've got 2 Aquarian cards here, the Star and the Hangman. You've got Capricorn cards here. You've got the Wild Woman. I was talking about this wild woman energy that I was picking up on. So it's all here. So the message you have, Aquarius, you start with Capricorn. Then you go to Aquarius, and then you've got Pluto. So it does seem to me, because the Queen of Pentacles is Capricorn, the Star card is Aquarius, the 7 of Earth between that talks about stepping stones, gradual progress, movement towards. So movement from Aquarius towards, movement from Capricorn to Aquarius. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with Pluto, right? The Death card is Pluto. So it just seems to be talking about Pluto's transit from Capricorn to Aquarius. I'm going to talk about this in a few different ways though. So we start with Queen of Pentacles, which is Capricorn energy. Now this could be an aspect of you. You could have Capricorn in your chart. Normally the first card that comes out is the person that I'm talking to. It like indicates your energy. So it could be that it could be that you are in a bit of a privileged position. You might not be rich, you might not be wealthy, but you could have, you know, food on the table, decent, nutritious food. You could have a house over your head, mortgage, you know, your mortgage payments are being made. You know, money is not, perhaps you're being very frugal with your money, but money's not, tight, right? Money's not an issue. Like your money is being managed very, very effectively. So yeah, not to say that you're going to be like the richest person in the world, but it could be that you are, you know, you're okay, you're good, right? You're managing, and you're managing very, very well. Like it's kind of like, you know, the Queen of Pentacles is somebody who is, and again, don't worry too much about gender, you know, whatever your, however you present, you know, whatever you see as your gender, like don't worry about it being a queen, you know, just adapt it if you prefer to a king. But this card represents somebody who is very resourceful, probably quite frugal. They are good with their money, they're good with the resources, they're good with the assets, you know, they use them effectively, they're not wasteful, and because of this attitude, they are they do tend to be better at creating comfortable positions. They can also be very, very skilled. They tend to be quite hands-on. So, you know, they've learnt a lot of you know, whatever they do, perhaps this is what they do for a job, or just the way that they show up in the world is very practical. It's very organized. It's very experienced. Like they know how to do this because they've done it before. And if they're learning something new, they're going to learn it in a very, very methodical way. So it's a very, very dependable energy. You know, this could represent a wife, a mother, a business partner, somebody who is, you know, they know what they're doing basically, and they're dependable. It's coming through today with this Seven of Earth again. It's like we're being taught a lesson basically, and perhaps this is because Pluto's been in Capricorn and it's a collective, a generational planet. It could be that this is what we've been taught up until this point. You know, Pluto's transit through Capricorn could have been teaching us that, you know, we have to think long term, we have to think about firm foundations, we have to think about investing our money wisely and all these kinds of things. You know, money management, resource management. And so it's funny because civilization, I was talking, I think I've mentioned it elsewhere, but I was thinking to myself yesterday after dropping my son off in school, and this idea of kind of like school doesn't teach important things, right? School teaches, I mean, it does teach important things, but I think there's also a lot of really important things that school doesn't teach, at least in the UK. It's like they barely touch upon things like resource management and, you know, stocks and savings and investments and mortgages and how to apply for a mortgage, you know, how to apply for a job, you know, what a P45 is, what a piece, you know, it's like they don't, you know, the things that are actually important, you know, that you are going to experience, you know, how to, you know, pay your gas and electricity bills, you know, all this kind of stuff. They don't really teach it. And, you know, instead they teach you how to measure a triangle. Like I haven't measured barely any, the only time I've measured a triangle is when I was being a teacher assistant in schools or teaching my own children how to do the maths homework. Apart from that, never had to measure a triangle. And if I was going to do something, for example, like plumbing or I don't know, something building, you know, something where I would have to measure a triangle, I would either Google it or train to be a plumber, right? It's like most people don't measure triangles on a regular basis. So I was saying yesterday actually that computer games teach resource management. You know, if you're playing Minecraft, you know, if you're playing Civilization, you know, like a lot of them have like a trade system, a bartering system, you know, a resource management system. So it's like computer games teaching something that schools aren't. Anyway, so yeah, the message of this Queen of Pentacles, whether this is a part of you, an aspect of you, or just generally a message that's coming through, is you can create what you want given time. So the Queen of Pentacles, Capricorn energy, is teaching us about patience, is teaching us about resilience. The Nine of Wands has been coming out so much for Capricorn over the last few years, is teaching us how, you know, if we want to achieve our goals, because the star card here is about hopes and dreams and wishes, if we want to achieve our goals, anything is achievable. We just have to put in the time and effort. We just have to be patient, we have to be methodical, we have to be resilient, and we can achieve our dreams. This is the message that's being given to us by this Queen of Pentacles today, and it is a message that I've learned through my interactions with Capricorns. Capricorns teach me you know, good things come to those who wait. Be patient. You know, we're working on it, kind of thing. It's like Capricorns are dependable and reliable, and they do make good on the wishes. But you have to understand that they are going to do it in their own good time, basically, if you're dealing with the Capricorn. So yeah, a Capricorn once told me to be patient, and I was like, no. Like, I have a Sagittarius Mars placement, just that is not my personality. I can't be patient. It's not who I am, it's who you are. Yeah, like dreams and wishes, hope. You have the song as well, it came through, you've got this underlying card here, miracles. Oh, that's interesting. I'm getting another message. So okay, ooh, there's something interesting. Okay, so the message that was coming through with this card, Miracles, it was giving me the song by Mariah, Carey and Whitney Houston, There Can Be Miracles When You Believe. I think it's like from the Prince of Persia or something, which again seems very, like it's touching on something very topical. But it's like, this is the message, right? This is, and then these cards came out, it's like, the Capricorn energy is here to say there can be miracles when you believe, you know, somehow we will achieve our dreams. You just have to persevere. So underneath this, the rainbow waterfall, miracles, you have aspen, spirit, courage. So it's like, it's almost looking to me like curtains parting. It's almost like, now it's like you've got a biblical touch to your reading. Again, maybe you've got into some kind of like Bible group and it's a little bit too, again, I'm not criticizing an entire religion. I think you find bubbles within bigger groups. But, you know, you do get those types who are kind of like perhaps Christian, who are holier than thou, right? It's kind of like, you know, anything that has even a hint of shadow or devil, like they reject it. So it makes me think of like Victorian society where, you know, they... again, Carl Jung, the collective shadow, really interesting if you want to kind of dive into this more. The idea, and Aquarius, you can be guilty of this as well. Aquarius energy can have a tendency to be too much in the superego and a little bit holier than thou. Where you forget that your beast within, your shadow within, is actually your friend because they have a lot to teach you. They keep you safe. So the idea of kind of like you know, humans being these angelic characters that are entirely pure and, you know, don't have sinful thoughts, it's unrealistic. And so I think that then tipples over into something that becomes toxic, because it's almost like a pushing away of something that is inherent and natural to us, that we need to master self-control over. You know, it's like it's like denying the devil on your shoulder, but then you're giving it free rein because you're ignoring it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. So you do find people like this who, my dad had a girlfriend once who was like this, and I was like, you know, it's like, I know I'm a good person. I know that, you know, me and God, you know, we're pretty on good terms, right? I don't think I'm a bad person at all. I don't think I'm doing harm in the world. You know, at least I have good intentions. And so, you know, the idea of, you know, I like to light candles and play around with crystals, so therefore I'm a witch, and therefore, you know, I'm going to hell, which was kind of her attitude. I was a little bit like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, lady, because, you know, he without sin cast the first stone, maybe you shouldn't be throwing rocks, you know, like, you know, don't, you know, there's people who kind of like, they're so preachy and they're so, they project onto other people so much that they don't see their own shadow. I don't know if you're kind of dealing with people like that a little bit. And that's not to say everybody who's religious is like that. But again, I've got this feeling of like you may be getting into some kind of little group and finding that about the people, that there is some kind of toxic positivity there, or even it's seen a little bit like see you later, like, you know, CULT mentality, brainwashing, kind of don't think for yourself. I don't know. It's a very, very unpleasant territory for me. Yeah, so anyway, you've got this thing about like the waterfall parting basically and revealing this scene behind is the way it's looking through with these trees. So it's like this miracle revealing to you this place that you need to go to that's going to take courage, is the story that I'm seeing with the images. And it's like there's family there, right? So it's like the family within this place, and then this place is a refuge. So it's like, you had Rehab as well by Amy Winehouse playing this morning. So it's like the courage to enter a situation that is going to feel like home, and that feeling like a miracle. So, sorry. So this Capricorn energy leading to this Aquarius energy, which is saying, you know, you can achieve your dreams. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take perseverance. And then this leads to this Death card. Now, the Death card can literally mean death sometimes for me when it shows up in a reading, but excuse me, it's coming through as a slightly different message. It's coming through as more plutonic. It feels a bit more like an ego death, right? A death of it, not a death, but an ending to the Capricorn phase, because Pluto's been in Capricorn, and now we're kind of seeing things from the perspective of the Aquarian energy. So again, talking collectively, talking about society, the way that it's almost like having, with this idea of like the veil parting, there's been something where I feel like collectively as a society we've had the wool pulled over our eyes, and I'm not talking about anything specific. It's a general feeling. So if this comes up as something specific in the news, I can't. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm getting through intuitively. So it's like the veil is lifted from our eyes. So this some kind of domination from Capricorn energy, and I'm not saying this is Capricorn people, I'm saying it's Pluto in Capricorn. So governments, legislation, the people with money, the people with power, the people with reputation. When it's like the veil's lifted from our eyes, we're going to see things from this more Aquarian perspective, where it could be talking about how, how society, especially with things like Instagram and social media, has been very almost competitive. There's been a very commerce-based society where it's kind of like, in order to be successful, you have to buy the right things. You have to wear the designer clothes, you have to buy the expensive beauty products and get the Botox. And it's like, if you've got money, you'll be famous. If you get famous, you'll have money. There's this very kind of material, reputation based society that we've built in this Pluto transversing Capricorn season. And so the Aquarian energy is much more human, right? The Aquarian energy embraces the lines on the face. It embraces the embraces the struggle, because the struggle humanizes us. So there's like the death card is coming through as an end to a way that we think collectively, and embracing something that cares more about ourselves as a society rather than the individual who should be celebrated because they've got enough money to get Botox, or because they've got a brand deal and they've got that, designer dress. And I feel like it's going to be something that's it feels like it's going to be rather a sudden shift, but I feel like you're going to see it coming. So it's going to be a shift where all of a sudden those things that we cared about become unimportant, right? It's like a collective decision where everybody just turns around all at once and walks in a different direction, because what we've been walking towards collectively, we suddenly see it for what it is. So the turn feels like a collective shift. And then this flow into a new direction, because we have meandering pathway flow. So it's this feeling of like everybody walking towards a false star, a false promise, work towards this thing. And then, that star falling out of the sky and being made of tinsel. And we're all like, what were we going towards that star for? So it has the feeling of like, how worth and value can sometimes be because a group places worth and value on that thing. And when the group loses interest, the value also loses interest. So it's like, sometimes designer goods have inflated prices. So, you might have a celebrity that has a certain swimwear range, and it's kind of like the same swimwear that you might buy from a cheap discount store. But because this celebrity is endorsing it and other celebrities are endorsing it, I am thinking about something specific now. Because, they get a famous singer to wear this swimwear, suddenly everybody wants the swimwear, but you kind of all, nightwear, and but you look at it and you're like, well, I could go to Primark and buy that for £3, £4. Why would I buy the same nightwear for £140 just because some celebrities told me to? Right? It's like, and who made it? Like, where did that come from? Like, sort of like, so it's kind of like almost like buying a piece of designer clothing and it falling apart in your hands and be like, why did I buy that? This happened to one of my friends actually in work. Hi, if you're watching. They told me this story of they kind of went shopping and they saw this really gorgeous, I think it was a throw, and it was like, I can't remember exactly how they described it, like hand knitted gorgeous throw, and it was like £300, and all of a sudden they were like, I have to have that throw. This is the way they told it me. They were like, I have to have that throw. If I have that beautiful throw, I can wrap myself up in it and everything will be fine, right? My life will feel better because I will have that gorgeous throw and it will make me happy. So it's like, and then they bought it, and I think they bought it, and then they saw almost the exact same thing for like 30 quid in, a supermarket. I can't remember the exact story, but it's very, very similar to like how I just described it. And so they were like, you know, then they felt kind of foolish, I guess. Then they felt kind of, you know, ripped off. So it has that feeling, but on a collective level, like what have we been valuing that perhaps we've been placing too much value on it? Again, we could be talking about, you know, how gold prices go up and down, you know, the value of things shifts. So then we have this shift in a new direction with meandering pathway and flow. It's like, well, what do I do now? So it's almost like working towards, say, for example, you've been doing a certain job and you've been working towards a certain promotion or a certain position, and it's like all of a sudden you think, why am I doing this? I don't even want that job. This isn't making me happy. And then you have this sense of freedom because it's like, well, now I can do anything, right? Now I can, you know, I could do that job, or I could do that job, or I could do that hobby. You know, if I'm not putting all my time and effort into achieving that goal, then I have all this free time that I can do something else with. So it's almost like this open pathway, like the, you know, you're suddenly given a lot of choice is the way it's coming through. Did you have choice? No, you had change in creation. And again, you do have this feeling of this being something that's kind of almost collective, or hearing things through the woodwork almost. Let me show you these cards. So you have, oh, gorgeous as well. Like, yeah, you're definitely going somewhere nice. Again, it could be like going on holiday, Garden of Venus, rest and renewal. And then with that, the Fool's Embrace, transmuting pain. It just feels like a spa day or something, right? It feels like, again, like how my friend was saying, like I just wrap myself up in that beautiful throw and like everything will be fine. So it's kind of got the feeling of like going to a place that is so, it's like so beautiful that it touches your heart in a certain way. Yeah, right. There's something so good and beautiful and healing about this place that, you know, it just expunges some emotions from you. So it's kind of like, you know, sometimes you get into bed and you feel really snuggly and you're like, I just want to have a cry, like for no reason. I just feel like I want to cry something out. Right, so anyway, you've got galactic mushroom, the divine matrix. So again, the divine matrix is that kind of hive mind, collective consciousness, which is a genuine thing, right? It does talk about how we think collectively, how we think as a society. Again, that idea of like, what do we value as a society? And the more people who value it, the more valuable that thing becomes. And as soon as everybody loses interest, you know, then the value of that thing plummets. So we, you know, it might not be hive mind in a sci-fi sense where it's like literally our brains are all connected, but we are all engaging with the same TV shows, the same news channels, the same, you know, music. So there is a collective consciousness, you know, to a certain extent. Again, Carl Jung's philosophy. Then this messenger of water with the crow. Okay, that's interesting. Underneath that is the gatherer, and underneath the messenger is water is the emperor, and then underneath the crow, kind of, so these two cards were underneath, literally these two cards, and this is these four cards were kind of on the underlying. So it's talking about, especially with the crow and the divine matrix and the messenger energy. Crows to me symbolize, because crows are a flock animal, right? You find what is it, a murder of crows, you find a group of crows. And there's this idea of kind of like the crows all communicate with each other, right? There is a bit of a hive mind energy to crows, you know, they all flock in the same direction. And then the crows also talk about almost like spies for me. So there's this idea of like the crow gathers information, the crow gathers knowledge, which can be passed on in a message to this one. And I want to say it's being passed on to the emperor, right? Because the messenger of water, the emperor's underneath that, and then you've got like the king of cups here as well. So it's like information is being given to somebody important by those who can collect information. This is gorgeous though as well. It comes with the Ace of Cups. So I want to say whoever this emperor is, this person who perhaps is in charge of something, could be some sort of father figure. I want to say that there's they are deeply connected, right? This is not somebody who's coming through as like selfish or uncaring. They're coming through as like having an emotional bond with this group. Okay, sorry, this reading is a lot. So this idea of like meandering pathway flow, this change of direction, like where do we go here, suddenly seems to find a new target. It's almost like a laser beam that narrows, right? Where you've got all these like speckles here. like these speckles of light, then this light becomes like a focused beam. So this talks about intentionality and moving in a certain direction. So I want to say there's this re-blossoming moment of new potential, of new direction, where, you know, perhaps what we were aiming for is no longer relevant, you know, that has experienced an ending. So now we have this springtime blossoming of a new direction and a new focus, and it's like a laser focus forward. And something about this newfound freedom, it could be very, very creative, you know, after you stop doing something that perhaps has been almost habitual, and you move towards something that is more flowing. You come into this wild woman energy, which is very, very creative. It's very playful. It's very innovative. So I feel like you're going to resonate well with this, Aquarius, even if you're a little bit more logical in your approach, even if you're a little bit more like, even if you are a bit more of a critical thinker and this one is a bit more of an emotive person, I feel like you're going to value their innovation and their creativity, because that's what Aquarius is all about, right? Aquarius likes to be quirky. Aquarius likes to be surprising and different and you know, individual. Aquarius doesn't like to be, while you're connected to the group, you don't want to be the same as the group. You want to be ahead of the curve. You want to be a forerunner. So you want to be a trendsetter, right? And so this person who's kind of doing their own thing in a very wild and playful and creative way, it could be a child or somebody who has quite a childish personality, right? They're very, they do go with the flow. They do what they feel like. They do what feels good in the moment. And yeah, I think you're going to work well with this person, or it's an aspect of you that's kind of coming out. So the wild woman into the sweat lodge. This is coming through for me today as some of my friends have been doing yoga, and I went along with them once, and it was in this kind of like blow up dome. It's kind of like a sweat room, so like almost like an bouncy castle. It's like an inflatable dome, and you go into it and you can have the heater on it. It's because it's in a big old like warehouse. It's quite cold, so having this little sweat room makes it like hot yoga. And so it's looking to me something like, it's looking to me like going into a situation where you're going to sweat it out, or you're going into a situation where there's going to be this intensity to this situational space. So with the wild woman, with this being this really hot energy and the sweat lodge, it's like it just has an intensity. There could be something about sweating it out as well, if anyone has been you know, looking to detox or anything like that. You know, like sometimes you have a hot bath because you want to sweat out, you know, the night before, something like that. But it's coming in with this, again, this Aquarian energy of this change of perspective. So I want to say this is a person or an aspect of yourself that is changing. Again, it's like changing your perspective again, because then you also have change here as well. It is coming through with this almost spinning energy of like, having this direction you've been going in for quite a while, something ending, which is putting you in this kind of flow, experimental energy, which goes into this intense situation where perhaps a decision needs to be made, right? You need to, maybe it's like a work thing where it's like you have to have a discussion and lock something in, right? So, you know, the original plan changed. So you then had this creative phase where you rethought the situation, and then going into something where it's like you have to kind of like lock it back down. And then you've got confidence in your magic. So with change and the Three of Swords confused me quite a bit. So the confidence in your magic to make changes, right? The confidence in your ability to speak, your ability to convince, your ability to lead, in order to make these beneficial changes because of a new perspective that you've had based on this creative kind of, there could be something where it's kind of like a group think, you know, like a, what do they call that? Like a mind mapping, but as a group. There is some resistance to a change here as well. And then it's like, it ends with the Three of Swords, which is confusing me. Because the Three of Swords is about heartbreak. So it could be difficult to let go of something that you perhaps, you know, maybe you had your heart set on it for a long time. So in order, you know, to let that go, to allow this change to happen, there is an element of something being heartbreaking for you. It's almost like, because it always looks to me like this is kind of like where her heart space is. It's like almost like an upside down heart. It's like, you know, she's had her heart ripped out in a way. But I want to say maybe there is something about sacrificing for the greater good with this. So that's funny because again, there's a bit of a D&D theme to this set of readings. I'm really into, you know, this is like a role play game if you're not aware, and I've been doing it with my family for the past few weeks and so into it, and it's become my own thing where, you know, I'm leading it and I've got this whole world and all these different characters they can meet, and I'm really invested in it. It's like, I love that. I love the way my brain's wired. I love to have a new creative something new and something that can let me be creative, right? Something that lets me use my imagination. So every so often I need something new to really kind of like dive deep into and kind of let those juices flow, if you like. And so I'm like heavily invested in the space of 3 weeks. So where was I going with that? So one of the characters, my character that I'm actually playing as, because I'm kind of like DM, but I'm also, because it's a small group, I'm also like, I have a character, is coming up to a point where they have to make a choice. And it's a very difficult choice. And it's that question of, do you sacrifice your own soul for the greater good, is basically the choice that's coming up for her. And is that the right thing to do? Or are there other viable options? You know, do you want to become a darker character by making this deal, which will give you gifts that benefit the group? And, you know, or is this some kind of devil's trick? Is basically what is coming up for this specific character. So I don't know if there's an aspect of that. But the song that came through, as I say, I did get a song here, and we are going to pull a few more cards to wrap up this reading. The song that came through was Can't Hold Us by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, which I just thought was brilliant because it has this feeling of, it is a bit of a rap song, right, Macklemore? It's that, and it has this feeling of like an uprising. It has this feeling of like being on top, on your, you know, on your A game. And, you know, there's this line where he says, I've lost it now. Hang on. It's a big song. It says, grown music, I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record into it. And yet I'm on it. So it could be that, like the sacrifice you make to, you know, your own energy being the sacrifice that you need to make in order to make a beneficial change, you know. Or hang on. And he's saying he put in the work. So if any of you are musicians, again, one of my friends was talking about how they go to these small events where, you know, basically musicians go around the country, but they sleep on people's sofas, you know, people just give them a room for the night, and it's just a way of them kind of like getting the music out there. So it's like really starting out like with a backpack, you know, and then, you know, working hard at that grassroots level in order to get the success. There could be something about that. But yeah, so it's like, you know, the ceiling can't hold us. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. We'll put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. So there is this collective energy to it, right? There is this, I don't know. There is something like society, right? Collective, grassroots about that song. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to pull you some more cards. I'm actually going to move to my Dungeons and Dragons deck for you. We'll kind of see what wants to come out of this. What wants to come out for Aquarius, please? I do like to pull a few cards live on camera. Oh, I didn't think you were going to get anything, and they did. That is so curious. That ogre. Right, the Wheel of Fortune. There is definitely 100% a beneficial shift coming in for you. Fortunes are changing. And the idea of kind of like, you can see this shift coming, right? You're getting the early warning signs. You know that there's going to be a change. And so it's beneficial for you because you can prepare for this change, right? It's like you're getting in early or something like that. What's coming through? It's giving me something like so you know how businesses work in cycles, so especially in terms of like the tax year. So I know from like my old job, like, you know, towards the end of the tax year, you know, for example, like perhaps the business would try and sell off a load of old assets that they didn't want to carry into the next year. So they'd sell things for cheap, you know, because they were trying to like dump assets. And then like going into the new year, then you'd get like, you know, the new things and the creative things and like the fresh look. So it's like you don't really want to buy, say if this was, because this old job was like fashion. So it's like you don't want to buy, if you want to be like at the cutting edge of fashion, you don't want to buy at the end of the tax year. You want to buy in the new season, right? Because that's when the fresh things for the next. But if, for example, you were running a secondhand fashion shop, then bulk buying at the end of the tax year would be the right thing to do. So it's all about knowing how those business cycles come into effect and how, you know, the new, I'm not sure. It's like you have this cleaning up at the end of the tax year, and then this. So like people do with the new year, right? It's like you get rid of a load of stuff in the new year. It's like businesses do a similar thing, but it's a tax year. Right, Strength in the Chariot. You've got 3 major arcana: the Wheel of Fortune, the Strength card, and the Chariot. Could be someone who's a Cancer Leo cusp that you're dealing with. The Strength card, because it's this big massive ogre, so it looks to me like something that's angry and something that's scary. So maybe somebody who's scared, somebody who's in pain, and somebody who's scared, so they lash out, right? It's like they're scary because they're defensive, especially if you're dealing with someone with Cancerian placements. So it's like if you see what's hurting this person, if you see what, because it's like the hands hurt, right? They've got all this thorn wrapped around the hand. If you can calm them down, and I wonder if the calm emotion spell is going to come out and remove the annoyance, then this person is going to settle down. So this could be somebody that you're dealing with in work, right? Like they've got a bee in the bonnet about something, you know, this is coming through from a place of fear at the root, or pain. So if you can look beyond the surface way that this person's presenting, because maybe they're in a bad mood, right? Maybe they're being a bit grumpy. For example, I had a big stroke when my dad died, right? Which is, I think perfectly understandable. Yeah, it's like if you can get to the root cause of what's bothering this person, then I want to say you can remove some of this. Something about it could be that someone's experienced a death, right? Because the death card here, it's like all these vines. It's like this is what's causing this person pain. This is what's causing that person to lash out. And then the Chariot card here is like, it's funny as well, like, cause it's like this little, it is this little mouse that this owl's carrying. And then this person's got like this little possum in the hand. Right, hang on. It's giving me the feeling of, I can't really explain this very well, but like how I got here, it kind of came through intuitively. You know when a dog's sad? You know how dogs don't really understand death? So if something dies, you know, it's like the dog might paw at it and be like, wake up kind of thing. So I'm getting this feeling of like, you know how dogs walk around with like the teddies? It's like, something about it because it's like this mouse, right? And then like he's got like it's this thing in his hand. It's the death is causing this person pain, but it's also coming through as it's something about like, because there's, you know, like how I was saying here about the sacrifice, like it's hurting this person's heart to do this. It's like drawing pain, no, drawing power from something that's caused you pain in a way where it's kind of like, witness this. Like, witness this painful experience. This is why I'm making changes. This is why I'm stepping into my strength. And this is why I'm in control. And this is why I'm making changes. Because of this. It's like turning pain, thank you. Sorry, I heard this. It came in as a sentence. Turning pain into progress. I love it. That might be the, I'm going to write it down. It might be the title of your reading. Turning pain into progress. I want to say, I love it when I get it. I love it when I get the message. It's like it's all coming together. So it's like turning pain into progress. Yeah. So this is, oh, I'm getting full body goosebumps, guys. This is the undeniable truth, right? When you speak a truth, when you put the evidence on the table, and this is the evidence, right? The pain, right? Like, it's like putting the body on the table and saying, this is undeniable evidence. It's like it is factual, it's logical, it's evidenced, right? It's all those swords things, but it's also having that big emotional impact, right? It's like the pain is also being put on the table in order to make the change. Because you're appealing both logically and emotionally with this. And it is something that is, it's like it's something that's true. So it's very powerful. It's putting you into a power position in order to make beneficial changes. Okay. Abracadabra. See how it's coming from her hand as well? It's like she's, and my home is my castle. Look at this hand business. My home is my castle. And then like, look at this thing about the structure, because not all the cards are like this. Like, but it's like, it could be like the place where you came from, right? Your society. Like you being very tied into a certain place. Abracadabra, my home is my castle. Maybe you have got Cancerian placements. I'm just looking for the little booklet, but I think I might have lost it. No, there it is. This is Tarot Oracle of the Mystical Moments. I'll say again, if anybody wants to know a specific deck that I'm using, if you just give me a timestamp and the, you know, a brief description of the card or the name of the card, I can tell you which deck it's from, because I use so many different decks, so it's hard for me to... I did actually originally, when I first started doing the readings, I had a list of all the decks that I use, but it got very, very time consuming and it kind of blocked my flow to have to list them all each time. So yeah, if anyone's ever curious, just let me know and I can give you the details. Just let me know in the comments. Rising from a kingdom of skyscrapers, a giant woman glows in the cityscape. She is so tall that she can touch the stars all around her. With her magic wand, she coaxes the future from the constellations. There is such an order in the universe, in the golden ratio of a nautilus shell or the patterns in the starry sky. I'm telling you, you're seeing the patterns, and this is what's putting you ahead of the curve. We can unlock the secrets of the universe. We are all the magicians of our own lives. It's like, that's what basically... Around the same time, I remember very clearly like the incident of me suddenly remembering this thing about Pluto and being like, oh God, where's Pluto? Like, I feel like it's like I remember like when all my spiritual gifts kind of woke up, when I suddenly was able to get these intuitive messages and see the patterns and predict what was to come, or at least the awareness of this ability, was this like epiphany moment of like a light bulb going on. And I kind of remembered when I was a teenager reading about, you know, the transit of Pluto and not Capricorn, sorry, Saturn, and, you know, these big generational planets. And I remember being like, this feels like that. This feels like what I read about happening in society now. So I remember looking it up and being like, oh my God, yes. Like, this is it. This is the moment, right? Pluto transversing Capricorn into Aquarius. And at the time as well, there was like a grand conjunction with some of the bigger planets. And I was like, it's happening. It's a big shift, and we're getting the heads up from it now. And I feel like we're on the cusp of this now. It's like everything's led up to this moment is the way it kind of feels. So, whoa, okay. The spells you have, mending, I love it. You've got the mending spell. I don't know what you're mending a broken heart, but you have, this is the bard spells. It's Dungeons and Dragons, but the way I'm using it kind of in your reading today is like, what action should you take? Like, what should you do? So I'm interpreting it. So mending, there's something that you should mend, right? There's an opportunity to mend something. Hallucinatory terrain. I don't know all of these. You make natural terrain look, sound, and smell like some other sort of natural terrain. Thus, open fields or a road can be made to resemble a swamp, hill, crevasse, or some difficult or impassable terrain. So again, it's just thinking about that civilization game. It feels a little bit like terraforming, right? It's like terraforming an environment. So again, this idea of like, you can change an environment. So again, it could be, you know, the way that the office goes about business, right? You could be putting in some kind of reform, because it's like you can visualize it. So therefore, you know, it's kind of like you can make it happen. Locate creature. Describe or name a creature that is familiar to you. You sense the direction of the creature's location, as long as that creature is in 100 feet of you. If the creature is moving, you'll know the direction of its movement. So you're locating a creature. Maybe you're like looking for a lost dog or something. I don't know. And then you've got a lot of magic, Aquarius. Makes me think of Capricorn's reading. I think they had like 2 magic cards. Mislead. You become invisible at the same time as an illusionary double of you appears when you are standing. So you've got some stuff about illusion. So there could be some situation where, you know, you could do a little bit of sleight of hand where you allow people to think that you're moving in a certain direction, or that you're in a certain place, but you're actually in a different place. Foresight, not surprised. That's what I've been talking about the entire time. You have the ability to see the future. I think you really, really do. And then true polymorph. You transform the creature into a different creature, the creature into an object, or the object into a creature. Yeah, you're changing. It just has this feeling of like changing a situation around. Locating someone in order to transform them in some sort of way. But it's going to mend a situation. It has the feeling of like letting people think a certain thing while you go off and do another thing. And it's, again, it has the feeling of like, I can see something coming, so I'm going to distract people over here while I go to this one in order to heal the situation before the rest of the group catches up, perhaps. I'm going to get you a song and then we'll close out the reading. I do not know what you're involved with. You've got to bust your kneecaps. Johnny, Don't Leave. It's a cover, I think, by Pomplamoose. Johnny, don't leave me. You said you'd love me forever. Honey, believe me. I'll have your heart on a platter. Might you recall we've got a small family business and the family won't like this. They'll bust your kneecaps. Johnny, you told me you were no fool, you were no chump, that you got cold feet, and now all you'll be is a speed bump. It's something we call just a small family business, and the family won't like this. They'll bust your kneecaps. Oh, I don't like that. I don't know what that means to you, Aquarius. I hope that this reading was helpful. I'm going to leave it there. I don't really know what else to say with that. I guess it's like, you know, Johnny turning up with his bust kneecaps at the police station and being like, well, I didn't do this to myself, did I? Here's your evidence. So a harm done, and that being the evidence, the irrefutable evidence needed to make a change. Hopefully it's nothing serious. I don't know if there's a feeling of like taking one for the team in a way, because this heart thing. Yeah, I'm kind of getting something, but I'm going to leave it there. I hope this was really, really helpful to you. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. Don't do anything stupid. Be in high vibration. And yeah, just have faith that a big change is coming, and it's going to be an opportunity to make beneficial changes. Okay. And it could definitely be like a collective thing, like a society reading, rather than a personal one. I hope this was helpful. Please take care of yourselves. I will see you again soon. Bye, friends.